Living if you're already there, it's not worth saying if it's already said. Even if it all goes over your head, believe it if you want to. So keep your eyes on the road and your head in the stars. Follow it down the rabbit hole just a little while longer. You can change anything if you want to. Sing it like ooh, if you want to. Sing it like ooh, if you want to.
NeoSurf has some good music.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Hey, Anthony.
Hello, Seth.
I don't know David Moon. He was supposed to be on here. You're taking his spot. I do know you, so I'm going to say it's an upgrade, but no offense to David who's not here, but if you don't show up, then people talk about you.
It is. I get talked about a lot, both positively and negatively. So go for it.
All right, good. Well, welcome, everybody.
That's just my own house.
Huh?
That's just my own home I'm referring to.
Hi, my name is Seth Shore. I'm the CEO of Fifth Street Gaming. Have a pretty extensive background in esports, but today I just get to be your friendly moderator, and the focus will be on our wonderful panelists here. Today we're talking about what are the easiest video games to adopt in the peer-to-peer model. So we get into some of the nitty-gritty details about different game genres and which ones are good for peer-to-peer wagering. So I'd love to start with a quick introduction of our panelists. Anthony, we can start with you.
Hey, I am Anthony God, CEO of God and Hammer Gaming Group, G3, and Esports Illustrated, which is launching this Friday. And that's me.
All right. Mike?
I'm Mike Darley. This is dead. I'm Mike Darley. I'm CEO of Next Gaming out in Las Vegas. The slot machines that you've hopefully enjoyed throughout the last couple of days are the ones we designed. We're here because we think that there's a connectivity between esports and bringing a clientele in that doesn't permeate the casinos at this point. That's why we're here.
Awesome, thank you. Big fan of your machines. Loved seeing them here. Ben?
Hi everyone, Ben Pfefferman, COO of Gamer Saloon, an online platform where you can play games, win cash, and also Dot City Gaming, a sports-focused esports and influencer team.
Cool. And how long has Gamer Saloon been around?
It is the definition of OG, 2006.
2006. All right. So clearly, we have a very experienced panel today, but very diverse as well. So I'm pretty excited. I do want to give you guys warning. I expect questions. Okay. So think about them now. So when I ask for questions, look at me like deer in the headlight. All right. So what we want to talk about today are different game genres and which ones are good for peer-to-peer wagering and maybe which ones don't lend themselves to peer-to-peer wagering. I do think that this question, we must touch on different parts. There's technology, right? We know different games are played on different platforms, which certainly have an impact in how they're integrated with online platforms. We know that different games, there are different genres played by different types of people. And we know that different games are developed by different publishers. So publishers certainly have some impact or influence on peer-to-peer wagering. So I first wanted to touch on the technical aspects. Clearly, Ben, Gamer Saloon has been around a long time. That was a softball. I knew the answer to that. I've always been very impressed by your longevity in a very crowded world. You guys are the OG. I want to first differentiate between the online tournament platform versus the land-based peer-to-peer betting environment. I'm going to ask each of you, can you just tell me maybe the difference between the two?
Yeah, one factor will be experience. So, for example, if you're competing and you are willing to pay a little bit more money to leave your house and feel like have a professional gaming experience. Versus online, I mean, it's not really the case. I think generally online tends to be better with teams because you can form your team with people all over. And it's a little bit difficult to bring your team all together in person. And in general, thank you. In general, 1v1 games, obviously, they're logistically easier, and therefore I think do better both online and online.
Okay, thank you. Anthony, anything you want to add there?
To the technical aspect of it, to the difficulty of it? Can you...
I get, well, I wanted to give the audience just a general difference between the experience of an online versus offline tournament.
I mean, I'd have to agree that it's a difficult question for me because I have so much in my mind and it just kind of races, right? So I think part of what we're trying to establish here is online tournaments and being able to wager on them, which creates all these different conditions that we have to check for compliances and KYC and things, at least on what we're doing. I think the experience is better in person. The trick is always whether or not you can get people in person to do it with enough of an incentive to get them out of the house, right? And I think one of the things that we were talking about in previous panels was the differences between Asian environments and audiences and American environments and audiences and how different they are, and how it is much harder to get people out of the house in the U.S. So for me, I actually prefer to have some sort of connection between the online that leads to an in-person eventually, whether it's a finals or some sort of in-person special event that has a big bonus prize. But I think for esports wagering to be successful, it has to encompass both, because I think if we only do online, which is easier to set up from a technical point of view, difficult to set up from a regulatory point of view, but to say that we only set up online, I think we're going to find that the casinos are not going to be very complimentary and not support what we're doing. So I think it has to be these events that we do online that lead to bringing a presence to the casino space where you can have really exciting events with people and performers. As you know, we're planning one in Atlantic City. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I certainly am excited about the space.
I just throw up softball questions so you can answer with something smart about anything generally related to the question at hand. So thank you, Anthony. That was perfect.
Softballs. I feel. Give me a harder one.
Yeah. So I did notice outside yesterday that there was a slot tournament, Mike, around your games, which I thought was very cool. Can you speak to what the experience is like? Having a tournament with your machines. Is there anything different with the type of machines that you've designed versus traditional slot products?
And see the faces that have sat down on our machines and have had that unique experience with a skill influenced game, something that's a slot machine, but you have some impact on the outcome. Now our games are kind of a hybrid. They have a random number generator. Obviously we had to have that to protect the casino, but nevertheless, there's some skill involved in that. And the reason we've been with Ben and Ari for many years is because I think we're trying to attract a similar population. Skill-based gaming years ago, 3 years ago, was supposed to be the panacea for the casinos with the young people. That has not happened. We're still figuring it out. It's like esports is figuring out. Where's the sweet spot? Who it appeals to? But for our games, you can feel the excitement, and that's what we're trying to accomplish on a casino floor. Something different, something that people can have some peer-to-peer wagering, have a tournament, have an outcome that they can have a celebration, and be a participant in the outcome of the game.
That's great, thank you. Ben, in your 17 plus years experience on Gamer Saloon, I'm sure you have a lot of data. What are the more popular genres of games on your platform?
Yeah, I mean, this is not necessarily reflective of the overall gaming community. For us, it's about really specializing. There's a lot of online platforms in general. I think when you do anything, if you specialize with a particular community and you can do it better than anyone else, that's when you're going to have success. So for us, it's really sports games. Madden, by far the biggest one on the platform, followed by FIFA, NBA 2K, and we were trying to sort of bring up some of the smaller sports communities, whether it's NHL, MLB The Show, PGA Tour. And what's nice about the sports games in general is there's pretty much a new game every year for the most part. So there's always a reason for gamers to want to come back, play the new game, complain about it, say they're never going to play it again, but they still do and buy it again next year. And the cycle goes on and on.
Yeah, those game developers, they know what they're doing, right? So that's very interesting. As an entrepreneur, I completely agree. Finding a niche, being really good at one thing, finding your space, in my opinion and experience, that does work well. That being said, I don't know that it's a complete coincidence that the game types and genres you mentioned were also the games when I ran land-based tournaments. So from 2015 to 17, for about 2 years, I ran about 300 tournaments at one of our casino properties in downtown Las Vegas. It was an amazing experience, test, got a lot of data, and we did find the most success with sports games and fighting games. I think, it was our, based on analysis, that the people that played those games, I'm generalizing, tended to be more social, tended to want to wager more than, other genres. And we found they drank more. So we were running a bar. These are 21 plus tournaments. We wanted to create this social environment. We were not competing with the LAN center where people came and stared at the computer with their headset, which is fine. It's a different thing. We wanted our experience to be social and fun and loud and rowdy, and that's the environment I think we created most nights when we picked the right games. By far, the biggest drinkers were the FIFA players. Tended to be heavily European, and they came in their jerseys. So that was a great crowd for our bar. So definitely some overlap there in that experience.
Yeah, they're older as well, typically, right? So, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, for your slot tournaments, what was the high point when you were putting those on the floor? Where did you think you peaked with the population you had in there and what you learned from them?
From these 4 tournaments.
That's right.
It's a great question. I think, we learned exactly what we were setting out to learn. And that's, Anthony mentioned, it's hard to drive people to your venue. We found when we partnered with the right influencers, clearly word got out, and we had a lot more people than when we didn't. We moved the locations a couple times. So when we actually launched our first tournaments, we did these tournaments right on the casino floor, no different than where we would do a traditional slot tournament. And initially that got very positive feedback just because it was so unexpected. People didn't think we would be running esports tournaments right there in the casino, and we did. That being said, after probably almost a year, we moved those tournaments to its own area, its own venue, and created a better environment specifically for that customer. Mike, you touched on skill gaming and the fact that it hasn't quite evolved where it needs to be, and the same with esports. One of the things that I know the industry has been talking about for years is creating a space within a space. A lounge that's focused on the gamer audience within the casino, where you might have some of these hybrid skill influence games, as you said. I like that. It's a good term. Skill influence games. Maybe that's where you have your esports tournament. Maybe the music is different there. It seems, to make a lot of sense. I've heard many people talk about it over the years. We haven't seen that. Do you think that your games would perform better in a space like that?
I think at times they could. I think it was like that once, when Gambit and Gameco and Next Gaming and Competition Interactive were all vibrant and getting games, and we talked about having that specific space. The challenge we had is it wasn't open up 24/7. They had specific hours for that room, and it didn't make any sense. I think you need to have synergy, right? You really need to have a population. And I think the esports and the skill-based gaming clientele can intertwine. And I really believe that the social aspect of all of that, which you touched on about people being in front of their computers in the casino, is an important aspect. What you described, Seth, is that excitement on the casino floor is important to all of us. And having people having an unexpected celebration, I think is a benefit. So that really the answer to the question is, I think if you could create a room that has a population of machines and people, and it can stay vibrant, is good. But I also think keeping it on the casino floor, that's why our design of the games fit in a slot machine hole. We can put those anywhere in a casino and create that environment.
Yeah, that's great. No, I love your machines. And look, when I saw your machines on the floor, and I've seen them in the past, to me, the level of skill, that's certainly one attraction. But it's the design, the look, the feel, the animations. That's really what jumps out at me as being a game that was clearly designed for the gamer. And I think you've done a fantastic job doing that. So with that in mind, the original question for this panel is, what are the easiest video games to adopt to a peer-to-peer wagering? So, a bit controversial being at an esports conference. We all, define esports in a way. I think we know the type of games that we define as esports. But are there other video games that maybe would perform well on a casino floor? Does a Candy Crush tournament or a Words with Friends tournament or something that looks more like a social mobile casual game tournament, does that have a place in the casino peer-to-peer? Ben?
Yeah, so if you haven't checked Twitter today, the IOC just released their own esports for the coming Olympics, and the list of games is a complete joke. Dance Dance Revolution, and like all these old school games, and everyone in the esports community is like just kind of mocking it, saying, look, boomers, it's a kind of derogatory term for people over 30, I guess, are making these decisions and making these games that clearly gamers are not interested in. So I think, and a lot of people the last panel talked about, the key word here is authenticity. I think to remain authentic to the gaming community, you got to play in their lane. And so my answer would be games that typically are 1v1 or better, games that are console versus PC are just easier to logistically put on. And then the third factor would be, to what degree is the game publisher, going to care? So sports games, racing, things like that, those are all probably the best. And fighting games, yeah, exactly. The ones you're doing is definitely the ones to do on your team as well.
All right.
Well, to your point, Seth, I think, when you talk about Candy Crush, and everybody's got a mobile phone, and we talked about staying in your lane, and that's why you see arcade style games for us, because we had a specific goal, is to partner with Taito and Atari, which are great brands, right? And we're fortunate because we've got years and years of habits ingrained in our players that didn't know that they were going to play our games. It's an emotional attachment. That's fortunate for us, because many of you have sat down and go, oh my gosh, this brings back so many memories. And that not if I can, but having the ability to trigger an emotion in you and bring back some good memories of what your youth, that's variable, right? But having you sit down with the game and be triggered and enjoy it to that point is unique on a casino floor.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Really, boomers, I mean, Generation X maybe, but boomers, isn't that like our parents' generation? That's
Yeah, right. Hey, my mother plays games all the time.
Okay, all right. So yeah, well, great comments. So Ben, look, I know, I agree with what you're saying, and I think it's very important. It's a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true, and that authenticity is critical. And but I think that's also where using the words esports versus gamer, and we can almost pigeonhole ourselves a little bit. If we're talking about esports, yeah, that's a particular thing. We're talking about the gamer, the average gamer, I'd argue that the average gamer includes a lot more people than those diehard esports enthusiasts. And, I think there are different strategies for different organizations depending on what their goals are. From a mobile online perspective, it's my understanding, you might want to fact check me, but, I believe one of the most popular skill games, where people are wagering is Solitaire. Does incredibly well. I know a lot of, games on the Skills or Game Taco platform are, the type of games that have IP that, we're all familiar with that are not, traditional esports, but they're different types of games. Anthony, I know this is an area you're very focused on. Any comments on these other types of social mobile games and how they play a part?
I think we just have to redefine what esports means, right? Like esports traditionally means like 10 or 15 games. And one of those things that it's very limiting, right? Because those are just the games that had really strong multiplayer and people defined them as esports and people started creating collegiate leagues around them and they were played in Asia and brought over. But I think if you look at what you said earlier and what Ben said earlier, competitive games are competitive games. And, if you look at the Tetris numbers on YouTube, just for the championship, that's 16 million viewers for competitive Tetris. And that's a game. That's a game that people like watching, apparently. I mean, I like playing it, and we just have to redefine what it is, whether it's, mobile strategy games, like Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, or mobile games like PUBG Mobile. Those games are legitimate games to put as a competitive, quote unquote esports game, peer to peer. I think we just have to the trick to what we're doing, and what some of the people on the panel are doing, is just getting acceptance in the industry that you can play these games and that it's safe, right? You can play these games and that you'll have a safe experience and you can rely on it, because once that's safe and reliable, people will do it more and more. So as you mentioned, Seth, our gamble, to use a pun, is that moving into the next 5 years, we call it real money video games are going to be the standard for gamers and for publishers, because there's a huge space here for any game publisher that starts creating games specifically for wagering markets as the skill-based market and as the iGaming markets, like what's going on in New Jersey, start to expand.
Well, thank you. Ben, you touched on a hot topic, and that's the publisher. So I'll throw this out to the whole panel. But in your experience, based on your opinion, what publishers are more open to peer-to-peer wagering, and maybe which ones are notoriously not?
Yeah, so definitely on one side, Valve is go ahead, do whatever you want, very pro everything, innovation. And on the complete other side is like cease and desist Nintendo, is don't ever do an esports tournament, don't put our name on it. And, the community has to operate independently of the game publisher. So, I think each game publisher has their own motivations and their own, how they want to be a part of the esports community. And just like some game publishers will run their own esports leagues, and some will farm it out to third parties because they just know that they do it better. So I think we're all just sort of keeping tabs on who's doing what, and I think that's for sure one of the biggest decisions in terms of what games you're going to support with tournaments.
Well, that makes sense. Great. Okay, well, we have less than 5 minutes left. This time just flew by. Any questions from the audience? Oh, man, I was hoping that wasn't going to happen. All right, well, that's okay. Oh, yes, thank you. What games are you most excited about?
In general, I'm really excited about, I don't know if you guys have heard of Zwift. I think there's going to be the next iteration of gaming. It's going to sort of go beyond just the console PC, and it's going to combine fitness and physical activity. So with Zwift, for example, let's say 3 or 4 of us, we could all be on our treadmills, we can all go running, and we can see each other's avatars and race against each other in real time. So more integration with the traditional sports or fitness world and gaming. I think that wave is probably the next generation of, not even generation, like the next like taking off now will be sort of the biggest games moving forward.
I think that's so cool, and will help with some of the negative stereotypes around gamers and being unhealthy. I know Alex Eagleman was in the back row. He left, but many years ago, one of his companies had an arena in downtown, and I remember there was a league that was a bike racing league. It was something like that. It was pretty swift, but it was very cool and very, very fun to watch.
Hey, Seth, can I answer that question?
Of course you can. I was hoping you'd jump in, Anthony.
Thank you, Seth. So what I'm most excited about is not necessarily a game that's in development yet, and I'm just going to throw some ideas out there that people are going to develop soon. Some people I know, but just generally vague enough so that I don't give anything away. The idea of combining video games with competitions and then being able to win money, either wagering on somebody or placing money on yourself in a skill-based manner, is going to completely open up the space for developers and players. And I'll give you some examples because they're really exciting. So if you can imagine playing a game like Minecraft, not Minecraft, I know that they'll never give us a license, but where you have the ability to in Minecraft, when you mine something, there's actual gold and other minerals that are useful to the players to create and craft items. But if you could imagine that an environment like Minecraft has actual real money value, that there's money in these minerals that you could find them randomly. So you get 50 pickaxes for $5, or the first player to find, this mineral in this environment in the first 5 minutes. Those sort of things are completely new kinds of games that haven't been done before. They don't really have it's not really something you would do if it wasn't for real money, but those kind of things are going to start happening. And you're going to see hybrids between slot products that combine slots and story-based games, so that when you play the slot machine, you start progressing or even affecting what happens in the top through a random number generator. These kind of hybrids are going to get more younger people into the space, because as the younger generations, they're more used to agency. They're more used to the idea of being able to make decisions in their games. But I still think a lot of what makes iGaming popular, the casino, the blackjack, the poker, the slots, those elements, dice, are universal. So bringing those into existing games, I think, is where we're going to see the most exciting development over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, Anthony. I completely agree. I think there's a lot that slot manufacturers, both offline and online, can do to the game without necessarily changing the game mechanics. It could still be completely RNG, but certain elements, like having an inventory, being able, young people can multitask, right? They're super good at that. Minecraft, I watch my kids are doing 10 things at once. I've recently seen some AI generated slot machines where you just get to pick the theme and you get to pick the look and feel. It does not change. It's still a slot machine. And I think seeing things like that can attract the audience without completely reinventing the slot machine. So, all right, I was just given the gong. If you didn't hear it, already gonged us. We're done. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
I was just going to say that I wanted to thank you guys for filming. And I appreciate Anthony taking the time from New Jersey to get on live. The programming for the rest of the day is going to change a little. We are pushing all the talks up, so our 3 p.m. talk is going to start now. Our 4 p.m. talk is right out, and we're going to have our talk on why responsible. We're going to have our responsible gaming talk is going to be pushed up to 4. So I know people want to get out or want to go where they want to go, and we're going to stream it all to our audiences, so it'll all be recorded, and you can use that later too. You can repost it if you want. So thank you guys again for joining us, and we'll see you, hopefully, one of you guys in New Jersey for the CEC EIC in New Jersey. Thank you so much. Thank you, Seth. So now we're going to have the next panel up. which is, let me just see, which is the 3 p.m. So it's Lucas, Lori Locklear, and Zach. And we're going to continue recording on here. You guys are just going to see you.
Are we able to put up some slides?
Yes, yes. If you want to put some slides up, sure. Did you send me, you have a presentation, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to email it to you?
Yeah, just email it to me.
Just us,
Oh, Lori's going to join us too.